Okay, and what we want to do in this video is actually discuss two. Now, I see two factors or two non-determinants of supply. Now, I am only putting one on the intro slide just because I want you to be aware of the second and how it can affect. But right now, what we're doing is we're coming to our last video on non-price determinants of supply. These are the things that cause the supply curve to shift. So let's remind ourselves of each and every one of them. Okay, so the first one was changes in subsidies and changes in indirect taxes. The second one was changes in technology. The third one was changes in other related goods prices. The fourth one was changes in resource costs. The fifth one was changes in expectations regarding future price. And the last one is changes in the size of the market or an unusual special circumstance. Okay, and then all of these listed above will cause a shift, and we're using the idea of this term stores to try to remember them. Now, to remind ourselves of what an outward shift of the supply curve is. What this means is that the supply curve itself entirely shifts to the right. At every price more is supplied, and this is known as an increase in supply. On the other hand, an inward shift of the supply curve means that at every price less is supplied, and this is known as a decrease in supply, and this is a leftward shift. The entire supply curve shifts to the left. Now, when we are talking about the supply or the size of the market, what we are saying is the number of firms that are producing this individual particular good. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so if the number of firms producing this particular good increases, okay, this will cause the supply of that good to increase, and as such there will be an outward shift in the supply curve. If a number of firms stop producing this good, they leave the market, they start producing something else, well then there's a decrease in the number of firms in the industry, there's a decrease in the number of firms producing that good, and that will cause a decrease in the supply of that good. Okay, so if there is an increase in the number of firms producing this particular good, whatever it is we're talking about, there will be an outward shift of the supply curve. Okay, that means that at every price more is supplied, and this is known as an increase in supply, following an increase in the number of firms that are producing this one particular good. Every single supply curve that we've been talking about thus far has been to do with just the supply curve of one good. Okay, then we've got a decrease. If firms leave the industry, that means they stop producing this particular good and potentially, hopefully for their sake, start producing another good. Well, then there is an inward shift, a leftward shift of the supply curve. And this means that at every price, less is supplied. So if there's more firms start to produce the good they set up and they're producing this particular good in question, well then that's an rightward shift, an increase in the supply. Supply curve shifts out and to the right. At every price more is supplied, and that's an increase in the supply of the good. And then in this case, if firms leave the industry, they stop producing the good in question, that's an inward shift, as we can see on the screen. At every price less is supplied, and this is known as a decrease in supply. Okay, that's the size of the market. Now there is just one other thing that I want you to be aware of, and I've only ever seen this kind of explained in agriculture, but maybe if you have any other ideas of what it could be, put it in the comments. Okay, so what we are talking about special circumstances, we are talking about something that was unplanned and potentially unplannable. All right, so adverse weather conditions leading to a bad harvest. So what do we mean? So let's say a lot of frost or something like that will result in less of the good being grown, and therefore that is an inward shift in the supply curve. Whereas on the other hand, if we have perfect conditions, or it doesn't need to be perfect, but really good, unusual, unexpected, special circumstances in terms of weather for growing. So we had lots of sun during the day and lots of rain during the night. Well, then there would be a bumper harvest, and that would cause the supply of, let's say, corn in this case, to increase. So what we're saying here is that would cause an outward shift in the supply curve for corn. All right, so favourable special circumstances would cause the entire supply curve to shift outwards and to the right, meaning that at every price more is supplied, and this is known as an increase in supply. That would be positive growing weather, something that we can't plan or can't potentially even affect. And then an unfavourable growing season with frost, lack of rain, drought, bad weather, cloudy so the sun doesn't get through so the corn can't grow. That would mean that there would be an inward shift of the supply curve, meaning that at every price less is supplied, and this is known as a decrease in supply. Guys, that is the end of the non-price determinants of supply. That is the end of the, I suppose technically 7, but really 6 factors that we are claiming that are going to cause the supply curve to shift either inwards, meaning less is supplied at every price, or outwards, meaning more is supplied at every price. Remember the idea of stores, okay, because each non-price determinant is represented by one of those letters. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helps, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next video.